WTN News, this is Montana This Morning.
Good Thursday morning. It's 5 o'clock. Welcome to Montana This Morning. I'm Victoria Hill. Thank you so much for starting your day with us. We begin here in Billings, where police are searching for a missing teen whose cell phone was found abandoned outside of his high school. 14-year-old Alan Coker was a student at Skyview. Police say he never returned home from football practice last night. Alan is 6 feet 3 inches tall with blonde hair and hazel eyes. If you have any information on his disappearance, you can call Billings Police at 657-8200. More than 100 firefighters are working to put out wildfires 18 miles south of Ashland. The Coal Bank fire sparked Tuesday morning and was caused by a coal seam. It has burned more than 6,000 acres. And firefighters are making progress on the South Moccasin fire burning 7 miles northwest of Lewistown. It's now 45% contained. The fire has destroyed 5 structures since sparking last weekend, but thankfully no homes have been lost. Now it's time to get a check of weather with Miller on this Thursday. Is today the day of the cool down?
Starting to cool down, absolutely. Now we're in the wake of a cold front that's still pushing through off to the east, and it's going to kick up showers. We have energy behind that, but the big cool down with deep moisture comes in the first part of next week, and that's the one we're eyeballing for the chance for us to see some snow for the first time this season here in the lower elevations. More on that with the main forecast coming up. 54 right now at the airport, humidity at 51%, winds out of the northwest at about 9 miles an hour. Let's take a look at the almanac. Yesterday our high got up to 77, so well above average. Overnight low well above average as well. Have not seen any rain yet here in Billings, any measurable rain for the month, but that is about to change as we have that system rolling through the area and all that energy we're going to tap into for a chance to see some daily showers. Right now, we're looking at 56 in Forsyth. We've got 42 in Livingston. Red Lodge at 46. Could we see being a little bit of rain there in Glendive? May not be hitting the ground though, but you're sitting at 61 right now. So much cooler today as temperatures in the 60s and 70s, maybe even some 50s off to our west. But here comes the rain and then the snow. When's that going to hit? I'll let you know with the main forecast coming up.
All right, we'll be listening and paying attention. Thank you so much, Miller. Continuing our coverage, Lake Elmo has been drained to its lowest levels in 30 years. Fish, Wildlife and Parks officials say it's a good start toward eradicating invasive Asian clams. So far, almost 8 feet of water is drained, exposing the lake bed in some spots. It is open to walk on, but FWP reminds us metal detectors are illegal in state parks. And if you do go check out the bottom of Lake Elmo, you need to be careful.
We don't want people even coming around thinking that they're doing the right thing by picking up old beer cans and beer bottles and things like that, because we don't want any of that, anything accidentally to get out of here or to illicitly get out of here.
The draining is also clearing the way for some improvements in areas around the lake. Construction crews will soon begin work to widen a portion of Lake Elmo Drive to 8 feet. A new roundabout is coming to Billings West End in 2024. Crews will break ground on the project at the intersection of Rimrock and 62nd Street. The roundabout will include crosswalks and sidewalks to improve safety for pedestrians and cyclists. Billings leaders are trying to make the city safer for cyclists. New signs are up pointing out a bike trail starting in the North Park area, stretching to Rose Park and north to Lyman Avenue. The new route is called the Neighborhood Bikeway. The signs are designed to keep drivers on the lookout for cyclists and pedestrians. The path will also make it easier to cross some of the busier streets along the way.
Virginia, 13th Street and 17th Street West. Those were kind of the busiest streets, so we wanted to include some enhanced crossings, especially for people who are a little bit more cautious crossing some of those busier streets.
The Neighborhood Bikeway is a 4-mile route. It costs the city $215,000 to construct. In court news, an Illinois woman will serve time in jail for getting too close to a grizzly bear in Yellowstone National Park. Back in May, Samantha Daring was caught on video taking pictures less than 30 feet away from the animal. Witnesses say she ignored warnings to move back, and the grizzly even bluffed a charge at her. Daring pleaded guilty to a misdemeanor charge of intentionally disturbing wildlife. She will serve 4 days in a Gallatin County jail and must pay $1,000 in fines and another $1,000 to the Yellowstone Forever Wildlife Protection Fund. She's also not allowed to enter the park for 1 year. Governor Greg Gianforte joined 10 other state governors at the southern border yesterday. The 11 Republicans are among an even larger group of state leaders who wrote to the administration last month asking for a meeting with the president. They say something needs to be done about a humanitarian crisis there. Tens of thousands of migrants, many of them Haitian nationals, made their way to the U.S. from Central and South America. So far, the U.S. has expelled more than 7,000 people back to Haiti. A short-term compromise may be worked out today to raise the nation's borrowing limit and prevent a financial crisis. Negotiations continue between Senate Democrats and Republicans over the debt ceiling. But as CBS's Laura Podesta explains, the solution on the table means we may be right back in the same situation about a month or two from now.
With the U.S. set to default in about a week and a half, senators appear to be close to an agreement to prevent that, and with it, a U.S. financial crisis. Republican leader Mitch McConnell offered up a short-term solution. The GOP will let Democrats extend the debt limit into early December. After talks that lasted late into the night, Majority Leader Chuck Schumer was encouraged, but not convinced.
We've been negotiating all afternoon and all night, just until the recent. We're making good progress. We're not there yet, but I hope we can come to an agreement tomorrow morning.
The debt limit has been raised about 80 times since the 1960s. Failure to pay its bills could put the nation's credit rating at risk, disrupt Social Security payments, military benefits, and cause stocks to free fall. Yesterday, President Biden met with banking CEOs who are sounding the alarm.
The cascading effects in the ensuing weeks could go anywhere from a recession to a complete catastrophe for the global economy.
Republicans say they don't want to default. They're just trying to highlight the Democrats' multi-trillion-dollar plans for new social programs.
The debt's going to go to $45 trillion, and your interest expenses are going to go up. We'll have less money to spend on all the programs.
Democrats are quick to point out, though, raising the debt ceiling is about paying off past spending.
It's about paying for what we owe.
If the short-term deal goes through today, Republicans and Democrats will be back at the negotiating table again in less than 2 months. Laura Podesta, CBS News.
The Senate is adjourned until 8 o'clock this morning, at which point a vote could be held on the short-term deal. Late last night, a federal judge blocked the Texas law banning most abortions in the state. The order bars enforcement of the statute that went into effect in September. The court's order described it as a scheme to deprive citizens of a significant and well-established constitutional right. Texas is expected to appeal the decision. Staying in Texas, a shooting at a high school in Arlington yesterday leaves 4 people hurt, including 1 student in critical condition. Police say 18-year-old Timothy Simpkins was involved in a fight with another student. At some point during the fight, he drew a weapon and started shooting. 3 of the 4 people injured were taken to the hospital. Video is circulating of the fight between Simpkins and another student. It shows Simpkins getting beat up before pulling the gun. He's facing several charges of aggravated assault with a weapon. Los Angeles just approved the strictest COVID vaccine mandate in the country. Shots will be required for anyone entering a bar, gym, restaurant, or indoor sporting event. The measure requires proof of full vaccination by November 4th. People with a religious or medical exemption for the vaccine would need to provide a negative COVID test within 72 hours of trying to enter those businesses. 120,000 U.S. children lost a parent or guardian who was their primary provider to COVID-19. Another 22,000 lost a secondary caregiver. The numbers are higher than previously estimated. A previous study showed 40,000 kids lost a parent, but only accounted for children losing their mother or father and not all primary caregivers. COVID-19 will have a lasting impact on the American healthcare system. That's why the U.S. government recently made a $2.1 billion investment in infection control and prevention. Reporter Dan Grossman looks at how this funding will help patients generations from now.
I think that's something in healthcare that we haven't experienced before, was the depth of which it touched. It touched every aspect of our healthcare delivery system.
There are lessons in tragedy.
Most of the time when you go through stress, you learn and you come out better. Healthcare has definitely done that.
Necessary things we discover, not only about something as novel as the coronavirus, but something as familiar as ourselves.
I mean, we've learned so much. It's hard to quantify that in a concise sentence. I mean, the pandemic has changed the way we not only deliver care, but the expectations we have of our healthcare system and the importance it is to communities.
Holly Seeley has seen a lot. A flight nurse for nearly 15 years and now the chief operating officer at a major hospital. Numbers only prove what she has witnessed. During the first 3 months of the pandemic, 25% of COVID-19 patients admitted to our hospital system were dying. By June, that number dropped to 12.5%, and today that number stands at less than 5%. The vaccine has played a large role, yes, but the collaboration that didn't exist prior to the pandemic has played an even larger one in healthcare systems nationwide.
There were often multiple people calling, single hospitals at a time, hopefully to accept patients, where now there's one number that people could call, and bigger healthcare systems are automatically accepting patients to make sure there's no delay.
Moving forward, that collaboration will be even more pronounced. Money from the government's $2.1 billion investment will start getting distributed this month as it helps organize strike teams that are deployed to help hospitals in need, increase lab capacity so hospitals can test new viruses more quickly, and educate staff on best practices. A major one learned because of the pandemic is time of stay.
Here we do a lot of deliveries, and we saw women, instead of coming in and staying 2 to 3 days, they would be out within 24 hours.
After giving birth?
After giving birth. And so that definitely increased our ability to focus resources on someone else.
This isn't to say the pandemic has been good for healthcare. The lives lost and strain on first responders still weigh heavy, but it is to say there has been a silver lining amid so much tragedy.
We've learned so much. I actually don't think we'll ever go back to the way we were.
I'm Dan Grossman.
Thank you so much, Dan. In other news, local attorneys are challenging a new state law that prevents businesses from mandating their employees be vaccinated. The suit was filed in state court by the Netzer Law Office of Billings and Sydney. It comes 2 weeks after a similar suit was filed asking a judge to strike down the law for doctors' offices. This latest suit is broader and asks the court to invalidate the law for all businesses. New changes to a federal student loan forgiveness program has the potential to help thousands of borrowers. The Education Department announced loans will be forgiven for more public service workers if they've made payments for 10 or more years. In many cases in the past, borrowers found their payments did not qualify for forgiveness, but now they do. This waiver will continue until October 31st of next year. Good news on the worker shortage front. Hiring picked back up last month. New numbers show there were 568,000 new jobs in September. That beat the original Dow Jones estimate of 425,000. The leisure and hospitality sector led the way with the highest number of new hires. Much of that hiring happened within hotel chains. For the first time in decades, a new federal law is making changes to the country's foster care system. Reporter Vanessa Mayanza looks at how the changes will impact children.
Taking children away from parents is a heartbreaking situation. Now, a federal law just put into effect October 1st is hoping to prevent those moments. Simply put, the Families First Prevention Services Act aims to move away from placing children into residential facilities or group homes and instead keeps them in either a foster home or preferably their own home. To do that, federal dollars will be put towards services that can be accessed at the home. That's something that could not be done before. National data says the most common reasons children end up in foster care are neglect and drug abuse. By providing treatment in the home, the hope is that it will heal the family unit from within.
That could be for substance use, that could be for mental health issues.
Yolanda Arredondo is a child welfare professional. She says the new law makes it so that children will only be taken out of the home and into a group setting if it is absolutely necessary.
Because that need is there, not just a reaction to this family circumstance, that it really is a need to protect the safety and well-being of a child. And hopefully that's temporary and we can provide treatment-focused services to reunify the family as quickly as possible.
In Colorado, where Arredondo works, the state has already been implementing these new federal rules over the last few years. Right now, they serve 70% of children and families in their own home, and 30% of the children are with foster families. However, some advocates are concerned that since more foster homes will be needed, there won't be enough places for children to go. Arredondo says she hasn't seen that in her own state.
Really just strengthening the entire system. Instead of focusing on only one aspect of the system, it's strengthening families throughout the entire involvement they may have with the child welfare system.
Hopefully meaning more families getting the help they need to stay together through the tough times in hopes of a brighter future. I'm Vanessa Mashanya.
Thank you so much for starting your day with us here on Montana This Morning.